The number 70. Every PGA Tour season ends with a single number, and this year that number is 70. The top 70 players in the FedExCup points list after the week at Sedgefield Country Club in Greensboro, North Carolina, determine those who advance to the FedEx St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind in Memphis, the first of 3 FedExCup playoff events. Miss that number, and a season effectively ends. Make it, and a player earns another shot at the sport's richest postseason run. The Wyndham Championship marks the finale of the PGA Tour's 2026 regular season, and it is the last opportunity to jockey for position in the FedExCup standings. This is the 34th and final event of the regular season, with a field of 147 players competing at Sedgefield Country Club. Every golfer ranked between number 61 and number 125 in the current standings is entered in the field this week. The points freeze the moment the tournament ends. No more events, no more chances to climb. Once the tournament concludes at Sedgefield, the top 70 advance to the FedEx St. Jude Championship, the top 50 in points after that event move on to the BMW Championship at Bellerive Country Club in St. Louis, and from there the top 30 progress to the Tour Championship at East Lake in Atlanta. Everyone who falls outside the top 70 heads into the fall portion of the schedule, fighting through conditional status and a reduced number of tournaments to preserve any form of card for the following year. This is not a competition for trophies. It is a competition for continued employment on the PGA Tour, and this week, 11 players sit close enough to the cutoff that one round could decide their season. The man holding the line. At the center of the entire story is a 21-year-old rookie named Jackson Koivun. Koivun is the last man in, at 70th in the FedExCup, attempting to hold off a pack of veterans gunning to make the playoffs. 2 weeks ago, Koivun had never won on the PGA Tour. He popped into the number 70 position after winning the 3M Open in Minnesota, holding off Scottie Scheffler down the stretch. It was his breakthrough win, and it was enough to put him inside the number for the first time. But a win did not buy him safety. The following week at the Rocket Classic, Koivun finished tied for 31st, and he remains the bubble boy heading into the Wyndham Championship at number 70. He played in the Rocket Classic in Detroit, but 2 late bogeys left him in the exact same precarious spot he started the week in. A player who had just beaten the world's top-ranked golfer to win his first tournament could not gain a single point of breathing room 7 days later. That detail alone captures how unforgiving the FedExCup bubble is in its final week. Past performance means nothing once the calendar turns. The chaser directly behind him. 1 spot behind Koivun sits Meissner, currently ranked 71st. Meissner enters the Wyndham Championship after a tie for 26th at the Rocket Classic allowed him to move up 1 spot in the standings. He is, at this moment, the first player left outside the number. The margin between Koivun at 70 and Meissner at 71 is thin enough that a single hole on Sunday at Sedgefield could flip their positions entirely. Meissner is not simply hoping Koivun struggles, he is playing directly against him in the standings, even though the 2 men will likely never be paired together on the course. That is the nature of a points bubble. The real opponent is invisible, tracked only through a leaderboard app and a mental scoreboard nobody can escape. The veterans fighting to climb back in. Behind Meissner sits a cluster of established tour players, each with a different story and a different number of points to make up. Keegan Bradley, the 2025 Ryder Cup captain, occupies 72nd. Bradley climbed from number 76 to number 72 after a tie for 15th in Detroit last week. He is trending in the right direction, but he still needs a strong finish at Sedgefield to guarantee his place among the top 70. Andrew Putnam sits at 73rd. Putnam slipped to number 73 after missing the cut at the Rocket Classic. A missed cut in the second-to-last event of the year is the worst possible position to be in heading into the finale, since it offers no data on current form, only uncertainty. Johnny Kiefer holds 74th. Kiefer enters the Wyndham at number 74 after also failing to reach the weekend in Detroit. Like Putnam, he arrives at Sedgefield with no recent momentum to lean on. Jason Day rounds out this stretch at 75th, and his story carries the most weight of the group. Day qualified for the FedEx Cup playoffs in 19 consecutive seasons, the longest active streak on tour. His 2026 season started strong, with a runner-up finish at the American Express and a tie for 6th at the Texas Children's Houston Open, and he tied for 12th at the Masters. But since the Masters, Day has not recorded a finish better than a tie for 38th. He withdrew from the Rocket Classic, leaving himself with plenty of work to do at Sedgefield if he hopes to extend his season. Per PGA Tour projections, Day will need to finish in a two-way tie for 12th or better at the Wyndham Championship just to climb into the top 70. A streak that stretches back nearly 2 decades is now down to one tournament, and a finish outside the top dozen ends it. The players trying to hold their ground, while the veterans chase from below, for players just inside the number are trying not to get pulled backward. Stephen Fisk currently sits at 69th, Fisk dropped to number 69 following a missed cut at the Rocket Classic. He remains inside the number for now, but with no recent form to protect his spot. Jordan Smith is at 68th, Smith slipped one position, down to number 68, over the last week. Matty Schmid occupies 67th, Schmid also lost ground after failing to make the weekend in Detroit. Schmid has been on this exact bubble before. A year earlier, he was on the bubble at number 70 in points entering the same tournament, needing a strong week to secure his card. He now finds himself in a familiar, uncomfortable position, just with a different number attached. Ricky Castillo has the most encouraging trend of this group, sitting at 66th. Castillo improved to number 66 after gaining 2 spots following his result in Detroit. Of the players hovering closest to the cutoff, he is the only one who gained ground last week rather than lost it. The bigger names with farther to travel. Further down the standings sit several recognizable names whose margin for error is nearly gone. Brooks Koepka, playing his first season back on the PGA Tour after time away with LIV Golf, enters the week ranked 86th. Koepka withdrew from last week's Rocket Classic and has been struggling with a hand injury. He will need to do something special at Sedgefield Country Club to make the FedExCup playoffs. A 5-time major champion currently outside the number by 16 places, needing one of the best rounds of his career simply to give himself a chance. Tony Finau sits 89th. Andrew Novak begins the week at number 91, Billy Horschel is 107th, Joel Dahman is 119th, Matt Kuchar is 142nd and Nick Dunlap finds himself well outside contention at number 165. Although each player faces a different mathematical path to the postseason, all will need a significant finish at Sedgefield to climb inside the top 70 before the regular season concludes. Players below number 182 will not qualify for the FedExCup playoffs, even with a win. What losing a card actually means. A missed playoff spot is not only a scoring outcome. It removes a player from the FedEx St. Jude Championship, the BMW Championship, and the Tour Championship, cutting off access to the sport's largest prize pool of the year. The 30 players who qualify for the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club will compete for a $40 million purse, with the FedEx Cup champion earning $10 million and a 5-year PGA Tour exemption. For a player like Day, missing the top 70 threatens a streak 19 years in the making. For a player like Koepka, it means a comeback season stalls before the biggest events even begin. For rookies and journeymen further down the list, it means a fall season built on conditional starts and Monday qualifiers, competing simply to remain inside the top 125 for the following year. Players who finish outside the top 70 but inside a lower threshold retain some status through a fall series, where a further set of events settles which players keep fully exempt status for the following season. It is a second chance, but a smaller and less certain one, played in front of fewer cameras and with fewer ranking points on offer. The bigger picture behind the number. The FedEx Cup itself carries significant history. The 2026 season marks the 20th edition of the FedEx Cup, a season-long competition that debuted in 2007. Previous champions include Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Scottie Scheffler, and defending FedEx Cup champion Tommy Fleetwood. At the very top of this year's standing sit 5 players who have nothing to worry about this week. Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Cameron Young, Wyndham Clark and Chris Gooderup are the first 5 players in the standings. Of that group, only Young is playing the Wyndham Championship, and he enters as the defending champion after capturing his first PGA Tour victory at Sedgefield a year ago. Young is the top-ranked player in this week's field and is chasing what would be his 3rd win of the season. The contrast is stark. While Young tees off in Greensboro chasing a title, 11 players in the same field are simply trying to survive. How fast the standings actually move. The Rocket Classic, played the week before Sedgefield, is the clearest evidence of how violently this bubble can shift in a single tournament. Xander Schauffele solidified his spot in the top 30, improving 4 spots to number 11. Ricky Fowler, who finished tied for 8th, climbed 5 spots into the top 30 at number 28, and in doing so bumped Nikolai Højgaard out of the top 30 to number 31. Rasmus Højgaard, Nikolai's twin brother, was one of the biggest movers of the week, improving 22 spots from number 125 to number 103 after finishing 4th, his best result of the season. Christopher Ventura vaulted 10 spots to number 102, and Davis Riley jumped 38 spots to number 108. Rocket Classic winner Michael Thorbjornsen climbed comfortably inside the top 70 after his victory. Yet for all that movement across the wider field, no player moved into the top 70 last week. The number held firm even as dozens of players shuffled positions beneath and around it, which is exactly why Sedgefield now carries so much weight. One tournament remains to break that stalemate. A similar swing happened the week before that. Chris Kirk moved inside the top 70 after a tie for 5th, and Byong Hunan was the lone golfer to drop out of the top 70, missing his opportunity to advance to the FedExCup playoffs. One good week is enough to climb inside the number. One missed cut is enough to fall out of it. There is no cushion in either direction at this stage of the season. The final round ahead. Every player from Koivun at 70 through Day at 75, and every established name from Koepka at 86 through Dunlap at 165, will play the same golf course over the same 4 days with entirely different consequences riding on their scorecards. Nearly every player hovering around the cutoff has entered this week's Wyndham Championship, setting up one of the most dramatic Sundays of the season. For Koivun, it is about defending a spot he only just claimed. For Meissner, Bradley, Putnam, Kiefer, and Day, it is about closing a gap that widened or narrowed by a single week's results. For Fisk, Smith, Schmid, and Castillo, it is about holding a lead that is barely a lead at all. And for Koepka, Finau, and the group ranked further back, it is about producing a performance large enough to overcome a deficit that ordinary rounds cannot close. By Sunday evening, the number 70 will separate 2 completely different off-seasons, one that leads to Memphis, and one that leads to the fall.